Alrighty, it's 1 after, so I think we'll get started. So good afternoon, everyone. If you've been tuning into our webinars lately, I probably don't need to introduce myself, but I am Sarah Rivers with IGA. And today we'll continue our series of webinars with our partners at Flipp. We'll be discussing having a clear framework for evaluating the effectiveness of your current marketing channels and where digital can best be integrated. We'll have Russ, Aaron, and Logan from Flipp that are joining us today. Russ will be doing the presenting, and he helps retailers navigate the transition from print to digital, and we're happy to have him here with us today. So I'll throw it over to Russ now.
Awesome, thank you. Welcome everybody, nice to be here, and thank you IGA for helping put on the series with Flipp. Sarah, thank you for the introduction. Yes, my name is Russ Polkes. I work closely with independents of all sizes across America to help tell their stories in digital media, reach the right shoppers at the right time, right place, and just figure out what works for their media in their markets and ultimately drive shoppers to the stores. Excited to share some of Flipp's history of doing this and what it means for you today, and continue this series designed to help IGA partners confidently navigate the print to digital transition. This is something Flipp's been doing with over 1,500 retailers, everything from your single store mom and pop shops all the way to major national banners. As part of our partnership, we're giving IGA partners exclusive access and strategies that have helped retailers save millions of dollars in aggregate while actually increasing their reach and being more efficient with their media dollars and the way they think about telling thoughtful stories to the right shoppers. So we understand you have choices in who you work with and what tools you're using to help you with this transition. Our goal today is just to teach you a little bit about our approach, some of the data we've tracked, and what it means for your market. So let's get started. And I don't think this is going to take the full amount of time. We did want to leave some time at the end. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. One of my colleagues may be able to answer in the meantime, and then we'll save some time at the end if anything comes up. So where are your customers planning today? That's probably the most important question we can ask. If your offers aren't visible where shoppers are making decisions, you really just can't influence those decisions. Our national data shows that shoppers are still planning before they shop, but how and where that planning happens has evolved dramatically and continues to get fragmented. When you think about your own shoppers, where do you believe they're engaging the most today? Is it print, email, social? Is it your digital circulars? At the end of the day, if you're not part of that consideration set when shoppers plan their trips, you're essentially invisible. So why don't we look at what the data tells us about this shift? So every year at Flipp, we conduct nationally representative studies with Angus Reid. And ultimately, one of the key takeaways is, probably not rocket science, but visibility equals influence. We know that 97% of shoppers still purchase in store, but nearly 8 in 10 are actively looking for savings before they go. That's the core challenge, right? You might have an ad, it probably exists somewhere, might exist in somebody's trash bin, but if it's not visible at the right moment, it can't drive impact, which is why optimizing visibility across digital environments has become so critical. Shoppers really haven't stopped looking for deals, especially over the last 5-6 years. If anything, they're very much looking for deals. They're often shopping at multiple different retailers just to complete their family's shopping needs. They've just simply changed how and where they look and where they want access to that information. So that's where data becomes powerful. What we're seeing nationally is a clear migration towards digital readership. That's across every generation and every income level. 7 and 9 Gen Z and 4 and 5 millennials now only read or mostly read digital flyers. Even among boomers, about half are engaging digitally. This pattern holds true across urban, suburban, and even rural markets. And these numbers are growing at a clip of about 18 to 22% year over year. We track digital readership and print readership every year. We have a great study if anybody's ever interested in looking at some of the deeper analytics. The trend lines of digital are up and to the right, and the trend lines of print readership are down and to the right. So ask yourself, which segments, age, region, do you see leaning into digital most for your stores? That's a question we're equipped to help you answer. So with over 16 years of distributing digital circulars and data from over 1 million processed ads, we have 400 billion data points to help solve this equation. We don't just help you understand what's happening nationally, we use our data to inform you about what's happening in your markets. So if all shoppers aren't the same, you can't create one message that works for everyone. What's powerful here isn't trying to make a universal ad or a universal one-size-fits-all approach. It's understanding which shoppers in which markets which shoppers are in which markets and telling the best story for them where they are. This means using local, granular data to help you plan with confidence and ensuring your marketing reflects the people who actually shop your stores. Some locations might serve families buying in bulk. Others might serve seniors who are looking for convenience. That same message isn't going to necessarily resonate with both audiences. So you do need to consider your local data, tailor your game plan to your store shoppers and their behaviors. That's working smarter, not harder, and not wasting ad spend. Everything starts with the shopper, of course, especially as independents. I'm sure we all know that very much. But before we talk about channels and budgets and timing, we need to understand who we're talking to and what do they value. So that means looking at shopper profiles by market, demographics, family size, income levels. Not every region or customer base moves at the same speed when it comes to digital. Your urban store might be fully ready to transition to digital today. A rural location or a location surrounded by a more senior audience might need a more gradual transition. We have a lot of partners who have retained their print in markets like that because people rely on it. We never tell somebody to go cold turkey on their print, but we want to think about this a little bit more methodically and figure out where are the ways to optimize, where are the areas we can save you money, and where can we get a deeper impact to more shoppers at a more efficient manner. So that's why our approach is never one size fits all. It's market by market. Help you move at a pace that makes sense for your business. We've learned from working with retailers who have tried to force change too quickly, and it's generally always backfired. So how do you understand who your shoppers are by market? Are you looking at any tools or signals to help understand that? And that's where process meets strategy. So we have a transition methodology. This is actually a tool we built, the Flipp Print Optimization Calculator. We do free audits for retailers. If anybody's ever interested, we're happy to walk you through your market, some of the learnings and understandings region by region, where we see lift and where a digital play may make the most sense. But anyways, our transition methodology is designed to help retailers like you know when and where to make the shift with confidence. It starts with understanding the target audience, comparing print versus digital reach, identifying where digital can do the heavy lifting. And this isn't theoretical. We're using aggregated data from over 1,700 retailers and brands to guide these decisions. We've seen what works and what doesn't across every type of market imaginable. Transition isn't, nor should it be, random. It should follow a clear methodology. Think of it as a roadmap where each decision is backed by data, not guesses. Sure, we don't always know everything, but we can definitely inform ourselves and put ourselves best foot forward. The best thing is you can test, right? Start small, iterate, figure out the best solution. You don't have to go all into a digital approach when you're managing your business. That's not something we would ever recommend. So in the past, shopper journeys were predictable, right? Awareness led to consideration, which led to decisions. And the print weekly ad was often the only or the main vehicle driving that. Today, you have a multitude of options at your fingertips, all of which have their time and place at the different parts of the funnel and offer a lot of value. For a lot of partners we've talked to, it's a lot of noise and it can be too much, right? But the reality is that linear path of one clear method that everybody uses is really gone and fragmented. Today's shoppers are constantly streaming, scrolling, searching. Those behaviors shape how they engage with value. They might see your competitor's ad on social media, search for alternatives on their phone, and then make a snap decision in seconds, and they're in their car and off to their store. Key takeaway, visibility isn't just about being seen, it's being present and relevant in each of those micro moments when shopping decisions are made. Every partner we talk to is at a totally different stage of the spectrum. So let's talk about what makes capturing attention so challenging and why many promotions underperform despite significant spend. Even with heavy investment, we've seen that about 40% of different digital media display campaigns in the retail space underperform or fail completely. And why? It's because we're fighting fragmentation, disconnected data, inconsistent messaging, a flood of competing offers, and attempt to have a one-size-fits-all approach to everybody from your Gen Z shopper to your senior shopper. The result is shoppers can get overwhelmed and messages get lost. So the question becomes, how do we simplify and synchronize these efforts to make it work harder for us in a smarter manner? Now, while many retailers are struggling, others, especially the digital natives, are solving these problems differently. Digital first retailers like Amazon, who have really shown a masterclass here. Again, not telling anybody here that they should try to replicate that, but the point is that they've streamlined what many of us still manage manually. Real-time pricing, automated inventory updates, rapid creative testing, just giving them an agility edge that seems impossible to keep up with and match. The challenge for traditional independent retailers isn't trying to replicate or catch up overnight. It's figuring out how to adapt that simplicity to our environment. You already have advantages that these guys don't have, right? Local knowledge, deep community relationships, personal service, that spark that makes you guys unique and brings your shoppers back in week over week. How do you combine these strategies and that ethos with digital efficiency? That's exactly where Flipp comes in. We help our partners bridge that gap by making digital work like print once did. Simple, visible, and effective. So as I mentioned in a past slide, despite heavy investments in paid promotions, we do see that about 40% of campaigns here underperform. What's happening is the fragmentation, right? Disconnected data systems, inconsistent messaging, and ever-increasing flood of offers. It just makes it harder for shoppers to see and understand your value, and it's a noisy world out there. And even if you have a standout deal, if a shopper can't easily find it or quickly grasp why it matters, they'll move on. Right? There's tons of people in your markets who know exactly who you are and can tell you everything about what your store looks like, but how many of them can tell you what's on sale that week? Right? That's where the shift lies. We want to move from shouting loudly to being found, and being found to the right person at the right time and the right device. We differentiate ourselves because we're not about distribution, we're about utility. Build the bridge between your promotional strategy at the moment a shopper is ready to act. In underperforming campaigns, many aren't necessarily about bad deals, they're just about inefficient and wasted media. So that's why our approach and the way we think about these challenges for retailers is to include visibility and meaningful engagement. The future of digital success for independents is hyperlocal, omni-channel, and adaptive. You know, you've always had an advantage with community. You know your customers, you serve them, you're part of your lives. Digital doesn't need to replace that. It needs to amplify that. Imagine your local store appearing in the right channel, right device with the right message, compelling for a family, you know, planning meals or a retiree picking up essentials. That's when you win the micro moment. We're helping you put your local expertise in every channel, mobile, in-app, in-store screens, anytime, any place. The goal here is your store isn't just nearby, it presents the moment your shopper decides. And being present isn't enough. You have to be relevant, timely, and easy to act upon. Amazon has really crafted this into a perfect way to, obviously completely different than going into a store, but they're capturing the right people, looking for the right actions at the right time, and presenting the right relevant data, and using that data to come back to them and remarket to them. So ask yourself, do you have some stores that might be the best fit for a test in digital? It's not about flipping everything at once, right? From our work with chains and independents, success comes when you pick the right starting point and prove the case and expand and scale. You know, perhaps it's your suburban store with younger families who are already more digital savvy, or maybe it's a store near a campus where mobile usage is high. You may hypothesize which your markets are most ready, but then you test, measure, learn, expand with confidence. So that's what we call the transition hypothesis, turning uncertainty into strategy. It's your roadmap, right? Test where digital can outperform print, identify savings to reinvest, scale where you have proof. This isn't a leap of faith, this is a calculated stride forward, and one that Flipp does for over 1,500 retailer partners north and south of the border. Winning today's shopper means being relevant at the hyper-local store level. Again, it's not enough to just have the saving, the product, and the price. We need the right message, the right time to the right person. When a shopper in your market sees your offer and thinks, yes, that's me, you cut through the noise. Digital doesn't just give you more moments, it lets you tailor each moment. So whether somebody's browsing on their phone while eating breakfast or scanning deals before going into the store, you're ready. It's about personalization at scale, not a one size fits all, but one size fits your market. A lot of partners send flyers out, somebody gets them sitting in their mailbox. That shopper might be sitting at their desk at work, about to leave work, looking for ads on their phone, stopping by the grocery store before they get back to their families. If your ad's sitting in the trash bin at home, they're going to default to what's easy and accessible and in their hands and in their fingertips at the right time, right? So being visible isn't a nice to have anymore, it's a must. But visibility alone won't work. It has to be meaningful and easy to act on and relevant. Your shoppers don't want to just see you, they want the reason to pick you. So I'm going to show you an example ahead, going through a little bit of the tool that I prefaced earlier, and what happens when we really look at the data. We talked to one retailer who believed they were reaching their entire market with print, distributing to about 80% of the homes. Yet the actual reach, when they polled their audience and found out how many people are actually truly reading their weekly ad in print, was less than 5%. That's a massive disconnect and a huge opportunity for reinvesting those dollars in something more meaningful, right? Shifting to digital, by shifting to digital, that same partner was able to save over 70% of their budget and reach more households at the same time, while maintaining or growing their sales. Suddenly you have more money to free up and put into different growth initiatives or put it back on your bottom line. That's the goal for Flipp, right? How do we make your engine more efficient? These aren't one-off cases. They're what happens when you replace assumptions with insight. So in our next session after this one, we're going to walk you through these kind of exact mechanics and how to build your own success story like this. But today we'll just do a quick overview. So step one, you want to understand, who do you serve? Age, income, family size, ethnicity. These matter because they shape how your shoppers engage with digital. A store with young families may have high digital readiness. A location, as I said earlier, with an older demographic may still rely on print more and need print more. If you pull that out, they might get very upset, might get upset with you, right? So what this means is readiness is measurable. We score markets on digital engagement likelihood. Instead of the guesswork, you have evidence. Once you know who's ready, you ask, what's actually working for you today? Which channels are driving traffic? Which are merely absorbing budget? Because the next step isn't go digital, it's move the right things digital in the right place. That's how this transition is strategic and not disruptive. Okay, our aim with you is get more impact, better insights, and smarter spend. Not just doing less, but doing better. So regardless of store type, market size, or geography, digital outperforms print in reach and savings. The objective isn't to abandon what's working, but to reallocate from what isn't. Once you have that validated, you can identify where digital has the highest potential impact. Again, this is just a snippet of our tool where you can actually map out your readership, how many print drops you're doing market by market. Understand what's your true cost per read in print. That's a key metric that a lot of people overlook or don't even really consider. You have to consider, how many flyers are you sending out there? How many are actually being read? Obviously, impossible to truly measure, but the rest is wastage. How do we avoid that wastage and use it in a more thoughtful and more effective manner? And then we want to understand where digital doesn't just save, but where it sells. So through engagement and performance data, we identify the top 3 markets where digital is already influencing shopper behavior. We prove it and we scale it out. Start small, where success is most likely. Build confidence, measure, and expand. That's the beauty of digital, right? Everybody knows that. There's analytics at the beginning. You can measure everything. You can iterate. You can do A/B tests. You can see what works. You can provide your merchandising teams all sorts of wonderful data. This isn't about flipping a switch, right? It's about scaling intelligently. And when that happens, you create a repeatable and adaptable growth model for your entire store base. We're almost done here. Again, thanks everybody for hanging in here. 2 more slides. So one of the biggest challenges retailers face when they look at the people around their stores that they could reach and then realize how many they're actually reaching, but not just reaching, but truly capturing their attention as they're planning their shopping trips. Like, they have the opportunity to tell a story, not just showing them a single item, but getting 60 seconds of up to 2 minutes of uninterrupted time telling your story, telling them how and why you're the best option for themselves and their families on an ongoing basis. The sad truth is, when we examine the tools that many retailers are using today, their actual engagement number is less than 10%, often in the single digits. And when they look at what it costs to get in front of these people, it's more expensive than their budgets and planning assumptions allow. They know that not everyone is going to respond to how they're getting out there. So by shifting to a model where they meet shoppers where those shoppers are planning today and paying only when those shoppers read and give them their time, that's what's proving to be most impactful here at Flipp. And that's kind of how we think about our approach. On top of that, if we can just find where the best places to start, prove it out, and allow you to act with more confidence, that's really the key. At the end of the day, if people could pay only the amount that they thought they were paying when using print or traditional channels and not pay for any waste or inefficiency, that would be the ideal win. So that's not the reality today. Again, we want to give you confidence in data and insights so you can make the best decisions for yourself, but also ensure efficiency, financial impact, and the ability to build relationships and drive new customers and position yourself optimally for the future. So that concludes everything today. We do have another session moving next week, I believe, where we're going to shift gears from communication to measurement and looking how to track success and sustain momentum and just kind of build your own case study and success story out of this. So we covered 4 main kind of takeaways here I want to just recap. And one thing to think about is the internal alignment, right? Make sure everybody in the organization, from the board or whoever it may be to the management and all the employees, understand and support the change and why you're doing this. And you need to think about your customer communication strategy. Be clear, consistent, use multiple touch points to reach shoppers where they are and when they're planning. And you got to think about shopper feedback loops. Collect input efficiently and use it to continually improvise and iterate. And finally, retention through relevance. Keeping your offers meaningful and personalized so shoppers stay engaged even as the experience evolves. So thanks again. Thank you to the IGA team. Thanks for being part of this conversation. Looking forward to seeing you at our next session. And we can stay on for a few minutes if anybody does have any questions as well.
Yeah, if you want to just drop any questions into the chat, we'll just take them there. Next week, we plan to talk about communicating change effectively to all stakeholders. So that will be our discussion for next week. I don't see that there's any questions in the chat at this time. So we will let everybody go. But if you do have any questions, you can always email me, srivers@igainc.com. Otherwise, we hope to see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.